Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic, the podcast where we talk about artificial intelligence, spatial computing, even quantum computing sometimes, and everything in between. I'm your host, Cathy Hackl, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, where in the world are you?
I'm in Portland, Oregon, where I typically are. I'm not the jet setter, although I am traveling like a lot in the month of March, so I probably won't be in studio as much as I'm used to. But yeah, I'm still here. You're finally back in your studio. It feels like old times.
I know. I'm back, but March is going to be really chill for me. I am not going to South by, laying a little low in March to focus on a whole bunch of things I'm working on. So you'll be the one with the travel schedule. It'll be where in the world is Lee Kebler?
Yeah, it's going to be a little crazy. I'm not sure about South by Southwest for myself yet, but I am going to Treefort, which is like a Pacific Northwest version of South by Southwest, but like smaller and more indie focused. Really interesting tech, like smaller, more angel investor round technology usually comes up in this space and still has that direct connection to like entertainment and movies, a lot of music as well. So we're all really jazzed for that. Plus, I don't have to like actually leave the Pacific Northwest, which is great.
Which is great. So I just got back from Miami. I was in Miami last week for FII Priority, which was in Miami, a big investment conference about future technology. My gosh, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I met there. This is put on by the Public Investment Fund from Saudi Arabia and the Future Investment Initiative. An actual interview is with the CEO of FII. We're going to be talking about the future investments, even the brand, the USA brand, and where he believes that strength is right now. So very interesting stuff.
And that's later in this show.
Yeah, this will be the interview on this show will be our guest, Richard Attias from FII. Yeah, so very different perspective, right? One of the things I wanted to do this year is bring a lot of different people, not only like US-centric perspectives, but bring different perspectives about how things are being viewed across the world from AI. One of the things he and I spoke about in the interview, people can hear, is that no one should have been surprised by DeepSeek, what you and I have been saying forever.
Right, yeah. That was a duh moment, like it was bound to happen.
Yeah. So that's cool. I am traveling again this week. So I was in Miami last week. This week, I am off to the Bay Area. So I'm very excited. I am going to be heading over there for a couple of meetings. But then on Thursday this week, so the day after this podcast drops, I will be at Apple at headquarters in Cupertino all day, which I'm really excited for a Create Interactive Stories for Vision OS workshop for developers. As people that listen to the podcast know, I'm an Apple Vision Pro developer. And I'm just really excited because I feel like storytelling was my original profession in journalism, right? So I really want to figure out how to start to craft new stories. What are these new content formats that we're going to have access to? How do you start to build these stories? And I think it's very relevant because you sent me an article about the Apple Vision Pro. Maybe you can fill people in.
Yeah, that's right. So it is interesting. This event that you're going to is Apple Vision Pro focused because that's the first movement in a while that I've heard from Apple where it has a central point of reference, right? Like this is what we're going to go and we're going to talk about this and we're going to like delve into what the future of the AVP stands for. Because there have been some like analysts and firms that have come out and pointed, rightfully so, that while the Apple Vision Pro does numerically have a large amount of apps, a lot of those apps are quickly turning off. They're becoming inactive. I've always been concerned about the Apple Vision Pro's app numbers because it felt very inflated in the sense that they were basically flat mobile apps that already existed on iPad or the iPhone that got converted to the Apple Vision Pro. And yes, that boosts the numbers of the Apple Vision Pro, but they're not Apple Vision Pro apps. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, those are just conversions of like, okay, great. You have a lot of these task-oriented flat apps. I'm not against flat apps. They're fine. But they don't really highlight the functionality or what makes the Apple Vision Pro special. According to one firm's analysis, at the height, this was back in August, Apple said that there were 2,500 Vision Pro apps. Now, according to the analytics of this, there are fewer than 1,900 that currently remain active. That is a significant drop-off without an increase. It's not unreasonable for an app to become inactive, especially if it were something that was very specific to a user base and it didn't take and it was a startup that went out. Okay, that happens. But for the number not only to have a drop in active applications, but not an increase in new applications is a daunting hurdle that I'm not used to seeing. Usually there becomes this balance of, yes, apps fall off, but also apps are coming in at the same time. And so it levels that playing field. So seeing the actual number of active apps drop from 2,500 to 1,900 is concerning. I personally think that this might have to do a bit with Apple not talking about the Apple Vision Pro and putting it out in front of a consumer market. My hope, and again, to our listeners, this is speculative. I am looking in a crystal ball here. I have no reason to know this, but we will hopefully know more soon, is that part of the conversation you have at Apple is going to focus on what comes after the Apple Vision Pro. Because we do know that manufacturing on the Apple Vision Pro, as it currently stands, has come back. There's a lot of talk of making a cheaper, more cost-effective version that still has that premium Apple feel. But yeah, $3,500 was just probably a little bit too much, a lot of bit too much for your average consumer to go, yes, I want that. So we'll see. I'm hopeful that we hear something that will stir it back up because I do think Apple offering a quality, for lack of what they wanted to say, spatial computing or virtual reality, augmented reality device is going to be really necessary in the next year or two.
And to that point, like, we don't have any visibility into the future roadmap of this product, right?
Yeah.
But what I do think is interesting is that the workshop is for Vision OS. It doesn't even say Apple Vision Pro. It has the little image of an Apple Vision Pro, but I think the focus is Vision OS. So I'm really interested in seeing how they frame it. And as a developer, like, how can I create stories that are interactive and more fun? I feel like that is one of my strong suits, is like storytelling. So for me, it's going to be really exciting to delve into it and be like, okay, how can I leverage what I can do with AI? Because I feel like a superhuman now that I'm using more and more AI to create like web apps and stuff. I feel like amazing. So I'm like, okay, how can I leverage AI to create more stories and take advantage of some of these new formats?
Well, and now that their Apple Intelligence is baked into the Apple Vision Pro, which honestly, guys, what took so long? But it's there, so I guess we have to be thankful that it finally arrived. But once that last horse crossed the finish line, now there's this whole other conversation of, okay, really, what can these devices do? Also, I think within the last week or two, fully Apple Intelligence, like image generation tool has started landing on people's computers. It landed on mine a couple of days ago. It's very on rails. It doesn't have as much flexibility and as you would expect. It is incredibly IP protective, which I guess is a good thing.
Which is good, though. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So if you want to like make a birthday card for your kid and it's got like Bluey on the cover, you ain't getting it. Like it might give you a blue dog, but it's not.
A blue dog, but it's not going to be a blue healer and it will not be Bluey. Okay? A knockoff Bluey. Okay.
Temu Bluey is basically what you're going to end up with.
Yeah, you could just do like, let's pretend this is Bluey. Okay?
Yes, it's a blue dog. It's close enough. But it is interesting. And honestly, what has really surprised me is there's been a big marketing push for just that feature. There are billboards in Portland that I've recently seen.
Miami. Yeah. Like literally, like all over the city. I'm like, wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a little snail on a car. Like there are all these like pictures that were like so random. It was cute. I liked seeing those billboards.
So there is a push coming there. And I do think some of that generative aspect of Apple Intelligence arriving in the Apple Vision Pro is probably going to be a huge talking point, because you're talking about avatars and gaming experiences and maybe one day like 3D landscapes. We'll see.
We'll see. And then I'll share what I can. Sometimes they don't let you share a lot. Like the first time I did a workshop as an Apple Vision Pro developer, like I couldn't tell anyone.
You have never come back from one of these being able to tell anyone about anything. I have no expectations of learning.
No, I'm not going to. Yeah, I can't spill the tea.
You won't say nothing. I know. What I'll do is I'll ask the important questions and then try to read your reaction.
Try to read it like,
Yeah, we'll do that when you get back. That'll be fun.
Typically when you lie, you're like, if someone says, do you like that? You're like, yeah, I like that. You're like nodding no, but you're saying yes. And we'll see how it goes with me.
I know you well enough. I might be able to at least get one of my questions.
You have some of my tells. I think.
Yeah. You're not exactly a poker player, so.
Yeah, no, God, no. But anyway, I will say other Apple news, it looks like they're going to be adding 20,000 new jobs in the next 4 years. So as much as we're getting tons of layoff news, I mean, this is welcome news, I think, for anyone in the tech community.
Not only 20,000 jobs, but a $500 billion investment specifically inside of the United States. So we'll see where that gets placed. I kind of have a suspicion it's going to fall in the chip manufacturing space, because they are responsible for their own silicon. They were partnered so very long with Intel, and Intel is an American manufactured company. And I think that there's still like opportunity and money on the table post CHIPS Act to see more of that stay located in the US. So we'll see. Time will tell. I wouldn't be entirely surprised. Once upon a time, Apple devices used to say manufactured in the United States or in California as opposed to designed in Cupertino.
California. But I'm excited to hear that news. And to that point, maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the things that you're hearing about AI and jobs.
So this was a weird week for me. The podcast does really well. We love our fans, and that inevitably means that I show up to just social events where people know about the podcast and they've listened to the podcast, and so then they take it as an opportunity, and I love it. This is not a complaint. This is coming off as a complaint. I don't mean it as a complaint. I actually genuinely mean this. People. But when people I'm at a dinner party or something like that, and they say, "Oh yeah, actually, I've listened to your podcast. What do you think about X, Y, and Z?" This is where I take the opportunity to tell you what I think. I take that opportunity to ask you what you think, and then I shut up and listen, because it's where I get a lot of my talking points. So if you do come up to me and you ask me about the podcast, expect to answer some of your own questions. But I saw a pattern this week at a number of coffee shop meetings and a dinner that I went to from people in support roles for large tech firms talking about, okay, we are starting to see the ramifications of AI. They have all said the same thing, which was really shocking. And that is, it is not necessarily the company that is bulldozing into the AI space. It is the investors who are demanding the company bulldoze into the AI space. And this goes to, I'm giving a keynote at Treefort's Hackl, which is their technology arm. Part of that keynote is focusing on something you and I have discussed, where AI makes sense as a feature, but as a product, it's probably not going to work. And that's foreshadowing for later in the show. And so part of this conversation that I'm having is no one's actually afraid of it. Everyone thinks they're going to get laid off. And then everyone thinks they're going to get rehired because they've worked with the tools. And I think that they're right. I also think we live in a society right now where people have stopped being afraid of getting laid off because it's just so routine that it's just like, yeah, you're going to get laid off and then you'll get rehired in like 3 months and rinse, cycle, and repeat. It was a disheartening, but also a poignant conversation to be having. And I expect more people are going to be having this conversation. And I encourage people to have this conversation with people who are involved. I know that these investors listen to our show. I know that these company leaders do listen to this show. So take this as an opportunity to hear me out when I say what you think AI is going to solve for you is not going to solve that right now. It is a feature tool that can help boost the productivity of your employees, but it is not in a place, especially if you're talking about support systems, that can fully replace these support entities because they're still talking to real people. So effectively, you're going to remove a knowledge base that is already trained and understands everything that's happening, that has been doing this. You're going to remove those people out of the space. You're going to try and insert an AI to replace them because your investors are telling you that's what they think you're supposed to do. But when you do that and it does not work, you will have to backtrack and start rehiring. Now, you might not rehire the entire staff, but you're going to have to rehire, and that staff is going to be more expensive because we've seen this in every technology company as they just like shuffle employees around. So please don't do that. Instead, start looking at where AI can help your employees' soft skills, where it can analyze what's currently happening in your support systems and give a better line of communication and suggestions to those people. Look, support people are humans. You're going to have support staff that have a bad day. It is a great idea to have AI sitting in between, analyzing that conversation that's happening and saying, maybe we can make this more of the voice of the company. Marketing people, you're hearing me. You understand what I mean when I say the voice of the company. Imagine a world where your support staff can leverage AI to make sure that across the support staff, the voice comes through of that company. That if they write something that comes off a little too curt, that AI can recognize it and say, before we send this, how about this instead? That solution, no one's going to balk at. That solution is something that's necessary. And that solution is something that will actually make your investors happy because it's a good solution. But if you're going to try and bring in this AI and implement it as a product, a full productization to replace your support staff or whoever, forget about it. It's done. You're going to have to hire them again. You're about to make the biggest mistake of your career. Don't do that.
No, I agree with you. Some interesting conversations I had in Florida as well related to that. It's like the fact is that a lot of these large language models, which are the ones that power most of the things that are out there right now, so a lot of them are running on large language models, right? And those are hallucinating. That no one has solved the hallucination problem here, right?
No.
Gary Marcus talks a lot about that. It's like these things are still hallucinating, so they're not 100% perfect. And if you're going to replace your staff, a whole bunch of people, I mean, I would wait till it's not at 85% or 60%. I would wait till it's at like 98%.
Yes, it is such a big gamble. It's a silly gamble that is completely unnecessary. And it is a conversation that I've had multiple times this week. And let me say, your support staff are not afraid. They kind of assume they're getting laid off, but they also know because they've seen it. They're the closest to the action. You can't trust a computer to do this. So those are the conversations I'm having right now. And I had someone ask me a really interesting question, and that is, okay, but productizing AI has to happen for it to come into hardware. And I said, I don't think so.
Interesting.
This is my big aha moment because I've had a lot of conversations about like the past of Google Glass, and now we're seeing like the Meta Ray-Bans and all of that come out. And I said, I think the problem is, and I don't even know if Meta knows they did this. This was such a brilliant twist, and it finally clicked in my head why the Meta Ray-Bans do make sense and why the Google Glass didn't, when technically there was more technology in the Google Glass. It was 10 years earlier.
Well, yeah.
But it was Google trying to force a product into the market. And what Meta did was they took their AI, they took their camera systems, they took their pieces, and they put it into a product that was already in the market. So this is what I mean when I say the Llama AI system and everything that Meta is currently making right now, they're not trying to force that as a product. They are forcing it as a feature. They're putting it as a feature inside of a product, that product being the Ray-Bans that people already want.
Many people already buy on a regular basis. So that's a really brilliant point. Yeah.
That's the way. And this comes on, I'll let you go to our next story here a little bit because I think it hits a little closer to home for you because I called it. You were admittedly on the fence and still made
the fence.
You made the right decision. Yes. So this leads to an interesting acquisition from HP of all companies.
Rest in peace, Humane. Right in some ways. I mean, I was really bullish at the beginning. You know me. Glass half full on everything.
You are. I'm the half empty. You're the half full. That's the way this works.
I loved their initial marketing. I mean, gave me this sounds crazy, but it gave me like Magic Leap vibes at the beginning of how excited I was about the Humane product and what it could be. I remember applying to jobs there because I was like so pumped about it. But yeah, Humane has been, let's say this, sold for pieces in some ways to HP. So what was the total? I can't remember.
Yeah, the total was $116 million, which still sounds like a lot of money to like the average Joe, but not with the amount of money that they raised. It really pales next to the $230 million that the company had actually raised since it was founded in 2018. And they were hoping for somewhere near $1 billion. So the distance from 116 million to a billion,
That's pretty big.
that's
a big gulf right there.
That's big.
Big delta. Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, and I met the founders a year ago at Mobile World Congress. I was really excited because they were adding vision to the pin. But like I mentioned, I ordered the pin and I eventually canceled. Like, I didn't even get it. I was like, I don't really want to pay the $24.99 a month. Like, I don't see the use here after seeing it. So I do like that it had vision, like I said, because I do think that's where a lot of this is going. But yeah, rest in peace, Humane.
It is a genuine RIP because just because HP bought it, I don't know exactly what they're leveraging out of this purchase, but they are not continuing the Humane AI pin. So the Verge article that I'm currently looking at right now specifically says pin owners will be stuck with a $699 paperweight.
Paperweight.
Ouch.
Yeah, which I'm not because I didn't buy them.
That is rough. That goes to what I think a lot of tech bloggers and people like myself have always said, and that is you buy something for what it does today, not what it does tomorrow. And if you're an early adopter, you are very acutely aware that early adoption is kind of like hardware gambling.
I've gambled a lot in hardware, obviously.
Of course.
Exhibit behind me. So we'll see. But I agree. I was hopeful. Obviously, it didn't go the right way. We'll have to see. I think that does lead to the next story, which is while Humane is resting in peace, IVES, which is the program for the Microsoft HoloLens with Microsoft and the Army, is getting CPR. It's getting like revived here. They're coming back to life. Anduril, the company that Palmer Luckey founded, he had founded Oculus, which sold to Meta, of course, and then he left and he founded Anduril, and they have some really amazing software. Basically, they're partnering with Microsoft to give IVES this program. They're reviving it.
Yeah, and so it's a bit of a boost, and the details are still sparse, but this does bode well in the sense that at one point, we all were under the impression that Microsoft was just out. That was just
this
done.
Project was done. It was a multi-billion-dollar contract, mind you.
Yes,
So.
and evidently that is not the case. I actually think that is the right call. I can see the legitimacy of bringing Palmer Luckey's company, Anduril, into the fold for the project, but I would question, simply based on numbers and size, that it is probably, because it is a military contract, it is probably incredibly smart to keep Microsoft in it because they know the systems are in place. They've been on government contracts of this size for a long time. And this is not at the chagrin of Palmer Luckey. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm simply saying lean on where there are systems that are currently in place that are tried and true. And so I think that this partnership completely makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, we'll have to see. I live pretty close by to where a lot of this work is being done. So I'm really curious to see how it progresses and moves forward. And talk about that, like at AWE, Augmented World Expo AWE last year, Palmer announced that he was working on hardware and a certain project. So this all makes sense. Took a little while to be announced, but makes sense. So I'm curious to see that. And talk about AWE. Are you planning on going? Because I think we should go and do our podcast from there.
I would love to. I think that's a great idea. Obviously, it's a shorter trip for me than it is for you. It's just a hop down one state and I'm there. So like, yeah, sure, let's go. Rock and roll. A lot of the AW family live in Portland.
It's
so
like
yeah,
summer camp for us anyway, though. Like I make the pilgrimage, let's say, because it's like summer camp. We know everyone that's going to be there. So I'm curious to see how XRAI comes together at AWE in Long Beach.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be very interesting. I might just come down there and stay for a little while. I've done that before. So I'm all for it. Let's try to find a way to bring the podcast. We've done it before. Let's do it again and have some fun. Speaking of traveling, this is not an article that has popped up probably on your news, but it did pop up on mine. For those who listen to the podcast regularly, that I love, like camper vans and the technology that goes into camper vans. However, in 11 states, the camper van game has gotten really tricky because the states are saying, okay, you need to make more energy efficient EV vehicles in this space, which means that a lot of what used to be on the market is no longer available on the market. But this week or last week, Dodge, who makes one of the most popular, what's considered a delivery truck van, the ProMaster, they announced and they have revealed a fully EV delivery truck ProMaster. The entire thing is electrical.
Interesting.
This is a really very interesting approach because a fully electric van of this sort is what Rivian, the other fully electrical company, has signed their deals in. I don't know about in DC, but in Oregon, all of our Amazon trucks are Rivian fully electric vans. They're amazing.
I haven't paid attention.
These things look cool.
I haven't paid attention. I just know the truck comes when my dog barks, but I'm not really looking.
You don't ever hear it come in unless they have to like turn on that thing that makes noise to let you know. But yeah, the Rivian delivery vans that Amazon has, at least on the West Coast, those are super cool looking. And the other delivery trucks for other companies are almost entirely Dodge ProMasters. So seeing a full Dodge ProMaster electric, huge game changer. They're talking really good mileage, especially for as much as it has to carry. Probably will start being integrated into the USPS delivery trucks because most USPS delivery trucks are these. Just something to keep an eye on. We don't get to talk about automobiles that often. And usually whenever someone wants to bring up electric, it just like defaults to a conversation about Tesla. We're not talking about them right now. We are absolutely talking about Dodge. And that's shocking to me. And it just came out of nowhere, these fully integrated electrical vehicles. And so I'm just like, that's pretty rad.
Dodge, not to be confused with Doge. But anyway, we're not going to go there, people. We're not going to go there. Anyway, I just have to say that because that's hilarious. But anyway, we're going to go on break. And when we get back from break, we are going to have an interview with Richard Attias, the CEO of FII.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
All right, so we're back from break. Now let's go to our interview. Hello, everyone. So I am joined by an amazing guest today. We've got Richard Attias, who is the CEO of the Future Investment Initiative, which puts together amazing events across the world. It used to be Davos in the desert in Riyadh in October, but they also have events across the world. They did one in Brazil last year, and they've been doing events in Miami. I'm heading over to Miami in a couple of days to be there for this amazing event. Richard, welcome to Tech Magic.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Can you tell folks a little bit about what you do at FII, just in case people don't have context for the role that you play and what you do?
Yeah, so thank you first for asking about the FII Institute. FII is a conference, and in fact, we have multiple conferences, which is owned by a not-for-profit foundation called the FII Institute. Mm-hmm. which is a new generation of not-for-profit organization, because we are not a think tank, we are more a do tank. And I will come back to that in a minute. So we try to exchange a lot of ideas to see how we can be pioneering in terms of trends. Mm-hmm. This is what we call our think pillar, and which is really a laboratory of ideas. All year long, we create global conversations, and FII is one of our global conversation. And of course, we host our annual conference in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia every year, which in total humility became now the #1 investment conference in the world. And for the third consecutive year, we are hosting an FII in Miami. So we are very excited to be in Miami because it's a different crowd, a different audience. It's more about tech. It's more about fintech. It's a younger, I would say, audience. And we try to have one, as you say, Latin America, in Asia. And the ACT pillar is more, I would say, an investment arm, because we want to lead by example. So also invest part of our revenues, which are generated thanks to strategic partners and members, because we're a membership organization. We try to support some startup at a very early stage to lead by example. So this is what FII is about. And in few days, in fact, starting tomorrow, we have this FII Priority Summit in Miami. We call it Priority because we try to focus on what are the priorities of the citizen of the world. We even issue every year a survey, an index, to understand what are the priorities of the citizen of the world and how these priorities change every year.
And what is the theme for this year?
So this year, it's under the theme Invest in Purpose. Mm-hmm. And we realize that probably, and I hope that we will in Miami unleash extraordinary value creation by harmonizing tactical goals of the public and private sectors. I think it's extremely important. We see more and more that purpose-driven capital allocation is no longer a philosophical ideal. It is the engine of the 21st century economic growth. We see even staff and people who wants to work in companies which has a purpose. Mm-hmm. So we think that by aligning capital with innovation, AI, sustainability, and human progress, we think that FII is shaping a better future for industries, for economies, and for societies. So this is what is the main theme of FII Miami Summit.
And it's really interesting. So I am a tech futurist, and I just got back from speaking at Leap in Riyadh. And it was my second time in the kingdom, a couple of times in the Gulf states. And I can't help but feel like a level of optimism and hopefulness towards the future, that vision 2030, that vision of heading into the future and technology, allowing us to build a better future. How do you see the growth in optimism, the growth in the Gulf states, but also the growth in optimism that FII is bringing across the board, whether it's in the East and the West?
So listen, definitely there is a lot of optimism because we see in all regions, not only in Florida, which is becoming an amazing hub, but we see also in the Middle East and the GCC, amazing, I would say, potential, which are driven by economic transformation and investment inflows. We are a very data-driven organization and conference. So let's put some data on the table. As venture capital market is expected to reach almost 800 billions by 2029, which is tomorrow. If you look at the space economy, which is also extremely connected with technology, the space economy projected to be almost 1.8, 1.9 trillions by 2035, which is in 10 years from now. If you look at the massive investment and economic partnership opportunities which happened recently, not only between America and the Gulf or Saudi Arabia and the world, as Saudi Arabia has recently committed to expanding US-Saudi trade investment by $600 billion over the next 4 years. And I think that many of this investment will go in technology. Yeah. But if you look at what we'll be discussing in a few days, which I think will support absolutely your statement, at the FI Miami Summit, we will explore in our conversation multi-trillion-dollar investment opportunities, including, of course, this famous $500 billion AI infrastructure project like Stargate AI backed by OpenAI, by Oracle, by SoftBank, and not just to bombard a great audience with too many numbers. There is another very important number, which is that AI and automation could impact potentially 300 million jobs by 2030. So This is why we absolutely look at all these opportunities with optimism, because we see this huge also demographic shift of youth and their love for tech and gaming. It's not even a trend. It is a new era, and it is a transformation. It is, even in some countries or some continents, a revolution. And the question is, how do you navigate to not be lost or to not be left aside or behind? That's the real, I would say, challenge that we have today.
Yeah. And here on the podcast, we talk a lot about the gaming space and the gaming industry being bigger than music and entertainment combined. 1 in 3 people in the world is playing video games. And obviously, in a large portion of the growing markets, a lot of that youth is playing video games, right? So there's this virtual economy that's about to be unleashed. And that's part of where a lot of these investments are going in the future. So definitely excited about that demographic shift. When you look towards the future, you talked about space, we talked about gaming. When you look towards the future, obviously AI is everyone's conversation. I'm sure every interview you're doing is around AI as well. One thing that you said during an interview with CNN was that no one should have been surprised about the DeepSeek news. I mentioned it on our podcast as well, because I was watching FII last year and Kai Fu Lee talking about training the models for a lot less. And I've said on the podcast, no one should have been surprised. So I 100% agree with you. Why do you think people were surprised if we knew this was coming?
First of all, it's extremely important today to realize that we live in the global world. Mm-hmm. There is no more borders. There are potentially borders for immigration, borders for, I would say, some transaction. But we live in the world of multilateralism, and we live in the world of globalization. And what we see also is that beyond direct investment in our summits and conference, we see the summit fostering strategic alliances and long-term partnerships. Why? Because they unlock opportunities beyond the immediate moment. China, as United States of America, is definitely one of the 2 superpowers. We should not underestimate the Chinese, even creativity sometimes. It was an era where many Chinese were looking more at taking some ideas. But now if you look at the number of patents which are, I would say, existing in China, you will be surprised by the level of creativity. So this is why I say we should not be surprised. But I'm still convinced that the United States of America is still far ahead in terms of innovation, in terms of creativity, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of business-friendly environment, in terms of investment. So it's a race. For now, United States of America is ahead the race. We see many players, as we discussed for the Stargate project, which are investing in America. And I think it will continue to happen. But yes, we should not be surprised, because we are living in the world of competition in all sectors, and not just in technology or AI. And you saw recently, a few days ago, France hosted this AI for Action Summit. And they announced also big investment in partnership with other countries. So everyone is trying to have a piece of this cake, if I can call that a cake, because in fact, everyone understands that AI is a new language, and you have to learn this language if you don't want to be disconnected from the global economy. That AI will disrupt all industries. All industry. It's not just something new. So yes, we should not be surprised if one day we wake up and forget China for 2 minutes, that we will realize that even some small countries like Estonia are doing a lot. And maybe a new champion will come from these unexpected countries, because you have smart people, great engineers who are working night and days to develop some new tools. So maybe the next big OpenAI or the next big platforms will come from unexpected countries, because intelligence is everywhere, and which is great for our humanity. And we should not even underestimate the potential of Africa. We're talking about a continent of 1.5 billion people, or India, which is a country of 1.3 billion people, extremely smart people. The city of Bangalore was one of the best tech hubs in the world. And maybe we will see some great platforms coming also from India. So I think we have to be ready for much more global players.
Yeah, I completely align with you. And one question I want to ask you before we finish is in the interview with CNN, you talked about the brand of the United States, the USA brand. I would be amiss if I didn't ask you about this because this is an Adweek podcast network. What are your thoughts around the current state of the brand of the United States as you perceive it?
Listen, Made in America is an extremely strong brand. American Dream is still a very strong brand. I will give you a short anecdote. I don't know many flags of countries which are on the clothes that people are extremely proud to wear. Sorry to make some publicity, but if you look at one of the most famous US brand, Ralph Lauren, you see every year so many collections coming with the American flag, and everyone is proud to put the American flag and to wear the American flag. I don't see that in many countries. So the American brand is absolutely strong. It is still this country, and I can say it in total objectivity because I'm not American, I was not born in America, where you see people standing all together when you have the national anthem. You see so much patriotism. When you see soldiers, veterans, people saying thank you for your service. You don't see that in any other country in the world. You see lines at the airport where the veteran, the soldiers, the army have a priority line to board on the plane. They are extremely respected. So all of this is part of what I'm calling the American brand. Absolutely, I think, and I feel that it is back. It is very strong. It has nothing to do with nationalism or isolationism. It is just part of the value of a country which was born with a lot of immigrants coming from different countries and all be proud to be under the same flag. That's why I am a strong believer on the American brand. And I think as a humble expert on branding nation, I think the American brand is extremely strong, extremely powerful, and extremely influential. And I see it back stronger. And technology is helping that because so many innovations are coming from United States of America. And you have these amazing brands. The Silicon Valley is a brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Miami is becoming a brand by itself. New York is a brand as the capital of the world, the city which never sleeps, the economic capital of the world, and so far and so on. So I think the America brand and the America brands with an S are very strong, and they have a lot of value, and they are very influential and very inspiring.
Fantastic, Richard. Well, thank you so much for being on Tech Magic.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Cathy.
So very interesting interview. As you heard, Lee, lots of interesting things happening in the investment space. And also, I mean, his comments on how the Made in America brand is going to get stronger are quite interesting. I mean, definitely a lot to debate there, especially for our audience. This is Adweek, right? So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I want to go to some other stories that we wanted to talk about. This one is not confirmed. At least I haven't seen it confirmed. But Grand Theft Auto, GTA.
Nothing's confirmed.
Nothing's confirmed.
As soon as you say Grand Theft Auto, nothing is confirmed. This is the least confirmed piece of information. Nothing about this game is ever confirmed. They do whatever they want on their own timeline.
Well, they can, right?
They
can do whatever they want. You're right. But supposedly out there, the rumor is that GTA 6, which is going to be the biggest launch in gaming for a while, or at least the one that people are really hyping, might have a UGC, user-generated content component, which here's my question to you. Is this a threat to Roblox and Fortnite, or is this a good thing for UGC?
No, I don't think it's a threat because at the end of the day, Grand Theft Auto by default is an incredibly more mature game. Now, that does not mean kids don't play it. Well,
my kids are not allowed to play GTA, I have to say.
Bingo.
They do know what GTA is, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't not know what it is. It's been that gaming zeitgeist and the genie's out of the bottle. So whatever. But it is a completely different demographic that should be playing it. So I don't foresee it infringing anywhere on Roblox. Maybe the Fortnite players would move over to it because it would give a different dynamic. I mean, Fortnite was originally the shooter game and it would be considered, I guess, somewhat violent. Obviously, Grand Theft Auto would be considered immensely more violent than Fortnite, but I don't think so. I'm not entirely sure what the player base is going to, because we've seen this before, not to this level of an extent, right? Like Fallout has made some gambles on like letting the players have a little bit more control, and it didn't necessarily work out for those games. So not UGC, but UGC in the Grand Theft Auto space could be interesting.
I'm really interested in seeing how it all goes.
I would
I'm
love to know
excited.
what engine they're going to give you access to generate content, because this is a pretty locked down.
Maybe proprietary? That's what I would guess. They created their own engine.
Yeah, but they'd have to be very careful. I'm just going back and comparing it to things that I know that are incredibly UGC heavy, like VR chat is a direct engine integration. Arguably, Roblox is a direct engine integration. They own their engine. You go directly into it.
Roblox Studio, yeah.
So UGC sounds like a obvious move for something that has such a popular online multiplayer fan base, but a world that big that has to be stable can only give you access to so much. It is such a finely tuned program.
What if they take the Fortnite approach where there's like the actual game, but then there's like Fortnite has Fortnite Battle Royale, but then it has the maps?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the approach GTA takes, which is like there's the actual like GTA 6, all that stuff that happens there, but then there's like this other component where you build maps or islands or races or like what you would call them, but maybe that's the approach. You separate Battle Royale from the maps.
If there's a game that could come out of left field and pull this off, it would be Grand Theft Auto. 100%. My also concern is if they do want to do this and pull it off, it's going to be like 2035 before we see Grand Theft Auto 6, because they just push stuff back so much. So hopefully I'm wrong on that, but I'd love to see it. I would check it out.
I'm sure. I mean, I would too, not with my kids.
Once upon a time, they were talking about bringing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas into the Oculus Quest. Then it became the Meta Quest, and we still aren't sure what's going on there. Yes, no, maybe it could.
Wouldn't that be crazy if like it launches in the Quest in September? I mean, we have no visibility into that.
None.
This is pure hearsay. Like, I have no idea.
But that was at a Meta Quest event like 2 years ago. They said they were going to do that. And so I don't know. It's obviously a conversation they're having. So we'll see what happens in the future.
We like to talk about gaming on this podcast. It can't all be AI. So we'll talk about other stuff. I will say, so I'm really excited because I am a part of the jury, the judges for the ADC 104th Annual Awards. This is the One Club for Creativity, the ADC Awards, 104th Annual Awards. It's crazy. And I'm actually part of the jury for the game design category, which I'm really excited. It's such an honor to be doing this. I've done the One Club Awards and now I'm doing this. So I'm really excited to be diving deep into some of the entries in the gaming design category. And
when is this?
Well, we're judging right now. Like we're going through all that process. It's a longer process. So
do you have to play the game?
Well, I know. No, it's like, especially for the game, like I'm more in the marketing category. So I'm seeing like a lot of trailers and a lot of like, how is this? It's more of a marketing thing. But yes, I'm not playing any of the games right now, unless it's something that, not that I've played any of the things I'm judging. Or basically, if you don't have any like thing where you built it, you have to recuse yourself from that category because you can't vote for that, right? But none of the ones that I've judged so far, I have any relation to. So that's good. But yeah, I think the gaming space continues to be interesting.
I'm excited to see how that pans out. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. And then are you planning on going to GDC, the Game Developers Conference, or to GTC, which is NVIDIA's Developers Conference? Because they happen at the same time.
Yeah,
it's like a double whammy.
They happen at the same time. They're right next door to each other. And it is a short flight for me to go to that. I need to look at the dates. You're not the first person to ask me that. And anyone who knows me personally knows that I'm notorious for either I show up or I don't show up, unless like I'm actually speaking on a panel, which I'm not this year. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm on the fence too. I'm leaving everything up to chance.
Yeah.
March is like I'm going to chill.
March is incredibly busy for me. There's so much going on in like the other side of like my personality and like the music side and things like that have me really scrambled right now to get things together. So if I can, yes, maybe not. We'll have to wait and find out because I don't even know.
I don't even know. Like, now that you mentioned that, like, your other side, like, I have this other side to myself as well, which I'm starting to double down on, like, working on myself and self-work and working on, like, a lot of stuff. So I just hired this, like, life coach that's amazing. I'm going to be working with him. So I recently, long story, but my boyfriend and I broke up recently. So now I'm like in this moment of like, okay, rebuilding, working on myself. But that's also led me to start to rethink a lot about the dating app world, the technology. People on this podcast have heard me talk about that. But I have this idea for a dating app where you actually play games, because everyone on these apps is playing games, right?
Yeah, there you go.
But I think that it's okay if you play games as long as they're games, like video games, virtual experiences. So yeah, I'm probably going to be focusing on some of that stuff.
You can learn a lot about a person by playing a video game with them.
Right? Like that's the thing. I feel like if you have a virtual experience, because the idea is like virtual escape rooms and all these sorts of things. Like if you lose your patients really quickly, virtually, that's going to send us a big signal. Like maybe you're not the type of person I want to date, or maybe you are. Like it depends on who you are, right? But yeah, like I'm not back on the dating. I'm not dating again. I'm working on myself. But in the process of working on myself, I'm also thinking about how can I change this industry for the better. So yeah, I'll be working on some of those things. You'll be seeing some content from me on the future of dating. I don't think the solution for the future of dating is adding more AI. I think it's adding connection and experiences. And that's where the gaming side, I think, could be really powerful, especially for the younger generation.
Less AI. Amen.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just, when I hear that, and it's like more AI will solve it. I'm like, no.
I think that it's odd for our listeners. I've had some people say like, oh, you really come out with some pretty strong opinions about this. And it's just like, I don't hate the concept of AI. I just recognize it's a tool that helps you interact with the machine in front of you. It is not the thing that is supposed to replace or even can replace. I took time after Sora went public to experiment with it. And while I know Sora can output some amazing content in short little chunks, if you can properly dialogue and prompt it, which I evidently cannot. But as a new user to Sora, that thing put out the weirdest stuff. It was problematic. It almost takes a new employee to be able to write those prompts, and we're just not there yet. So let it just wrap it up with kind of what the theme of today's show has been, and that is take this technology for what it is, not for what someone is trying to sell you. Maybe one day it gets there, and maybe one day it doesn't. But nobody really knows where this technology is headed and what it's going to be capable of doing in the next couple of years. So just don't overshoot this.
100%. I don't think the solution to a lot of things is adding more AI, especially not in dating. But anyway, Lee, so I know you like giving some recommendations at the end.
I do. And this is a tough one. So before we wrap up, I want to recommend an incredibly soulful masterpiece called First Take by Roberta Flack. This album, it features a really amazing rendition of The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face. That was probably the song she was most known for. Really defined her career until she came out with her timeless hit, Killing Me Softly. Sadly, Roberta Flack passed away today at the age of 88, February 24th. So I just had to call this one out because I'd actually been listening to this album First Take. It's completely unforgettable. Her voice is amazing in it. Just go and check it out. It's called First Take, Roberta Flack. It's absolutely wonderful. So that's my recommendation for the week. Check it out.
Well, I am back to reading. So I've got 2 book recommendations. So this one was sent to me by the publisher of the CEO of Palantir, Alexander Karp, who just wrote this book. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but really interesting. Makes you think a lot about the perspective. It's called The Technological Republic, Hard Power, Soft Belief in the Future of the West. So there is some controversy on this book. Interesting, though. I will read it. I will report back. Thank you for the publisher for sending me a copy. I want to make my own opinion on the book, but I've seen all sorts of interesting reviews about it. That's one.
Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I think maybe you should read it. I mean, regardless, even if
Yeah, I'm always looking for something
this would resonate. There's some interesting perspectives there. And then the other book that I just got is AI First, Human Always from my dear friend Sandy Carter. This is published by Wiley, who I've published with before. She's doing a keynote at South by Southwest. It's like her 7th year doing one of the keynotes there. We're actually going to have Sandy on the podcast, interviewing her about the book as well. I love the title, AI First, Human Always, focused on AI and how to use it. It's interesting because when she and I spoke about it, when she was telling me about the book, she was telling me that it's not only about like enterprise, right? Because a lot of the books are focused on enterprise and bigger things. She's talks a lot about like small businesses and stuff like that. So yeah, those are the 2 things I'm getting into right now when I'm reading.
That sounds fantastic. I'm definitely going to check out both of those personally. I will. And for everyone else, thank you for tuning into Tech Magic, where we always invite you to come for the tech, stay for the magic. I'm Lee Kebler, along with the incredible Cathy Hackl. Special thanks, as always, to Adweek for bringing this show to you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. We love to connect with you. Just search for Tech Magic, Cathy Hackl, or me, Lee Kebler, and you will find us. We will be back next week.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Zero. The accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Zero. The accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.